Oh hey guys, I'm pretty angry today. I don't really have a reason for it. I just woke up with the intention of saying humanity kinda sucks, don't you think? And I thought about it all day, but I don't really know what to do about it. Wait. Oh!
The PS2 was one of the greatest consoles of all time. There was so much stuff in here.
But I'm more into plumbers.
The PS2 had almost every genre you can think about. Platformers, RPGs, action-adventures, hack-and-slashes, racing games.
And no plumbers.
With its great marketing and the fact that this thing is also a DVD player, it's no wonder that the PS2 succeeded as much as it did. There were so many great franchises having their debut in this generation. Games like Ratchet & Clank, Sly Cooper, Devil May Cry,
Gore!
God of War, one of the most beloved PlayStation exclusives of all time. I mean, just look at these numbers. Every mainline game of this series got at least a 90 plus on Metacritic, which is crazy. What makes this series so beloved? Like, there is no way a series this old can have this consistency in quality. The God of War series did see a hell of a change in 2018 with God of War.
Wait, there are two of them now?
They rebooted the whole series in 2018, going for a big cinematic approach. I only played these two games from the God of War series, and I will say that Ragnarok is one of my favorite games of all time.
We will get to that when we will.
Today I want to talk about the game that started it all, God of War. That's a hell of a name. But the version that we are going to look at isn't the original on the PS2, as the game got remastered a number of times on the PS3. We will mainly focus on the God of War collection. Once we select the game we want to play, the game greets us with...
Are these supposed to be letters?
My god, this font rocks! It rocks so much I barely even understand the words here. So, after whatever the hell this was, we get...
Is that supposed to be a human?
Yep, there are definitely a lot of graphics in this shot. God of War is a hack and slash developed by Santa Monica and published by Sony to the PS2 in 2005. It got re-released to the PS3 in 2009 with the God of War collection and God of War Saga in 2012. Going back to the title screen, man, this guy looks furious. I wonder what happened to him. Well, it's time to hit the X button and select a new game.
But before we get into that, there will be spoilers to the story. This is a game from 2005, so you're not really missing that much. But if you really care about the story of a douchebag that has way too much rampage, then just exit the video. And apparently I didn't say rampage enough, because spoilers are not the only warning I have here. This game contains lots of violence. Yeah, ever thought that the letter M in the box art actually meant something? It actually stands for me, but not for you if blood tickles you off. As for me though, don't worry, the only thing that scares me are cockroaches and Super Mario RPG. Oh!
Well, now that this is out of the way, we can finally see why people like this game.
The gods of Olympus have abandoned me.
Wait, what now?
So God of War is stated around the Greek mythology. Lots of gods are being in the spot. We are playing as Kratos, who jumps off a cliff first thing you see him.
Well, I mean, that's one way to introduce the character.
The way Kratos talks with this sad music that reminds me of the bosses in Dark Souls really suits a dark atmosphere, but the way he falls down like this just throws all of that away. I mean, just look at him. He's levitating. God of War's story is told like a book. You have this weird-ass narrator making everything super dramatic.
After 10 years of suffering, 10 years of endless nightmares, it would finally come to an end. Death would be his escape from madness.
Okay.
So after Kratos tries to kill himself, the developers realized that they actually have a game to make and decided to say,
But it had not always been this way.
So 3 weeks earlier in the Aegean Sea, we get struck by lightning and Kratos going,
Foul beast! I will send you back to the depths of Hades!
Go get them.
and we start playing. After dealing with some enemies and pressing R2 a bunch of times because guess what, that's what the game said, we get into the ship. Well, I guess that's the time to go home. So we encounter this sneaky little bastard. There is a cinematic QTE where the game asks, yo, did you know that you can actually hit the buttons? So we beat that lizard looking thing and move forward. We find this guy who says,
I know who you are, Spartan. I know what you've done. I would rather die than be saved by you.
Okay, well, see you later, dumbass.
hope you like that snake thing from before because here he is again. We move a bit forward and find this locked door where we hear that
You have to get us out! Find the key! Find the key! They're coming! No! No! Get us out! Get us out!
okay! We get to Poseidon, who tells us that the monster we've been fighting is called Hydra and we cannot defeat it alone, so he gives us Poseidon's Rage, a cool attack that makes Kratos go blue.
Yeah, because dollars are a bitch.
So we find Hydra, but it's a little too late as he already swallowed the man.
Like anybody cares.
Same guy who had the key.
Oh damn.
So now we battle Hydra. We first need to get rid of his two little heads, and by that I mean... Now we get to the real battle, where Hydra always pushes you out of the platform and you barely get to hit him. At the end, Kratos says, you know what, half a health bar is enough, time to die. So he kills him, but in the most brutal way possible. But don't you worry, Vor lovers, because we are about to go to the mouth of Hydra. What the fuck is wrong with this game? So we meet the guy that had the key to the locked door. I've got no idea how he survived all of that, but I'm sure he's not going to survive any longer as Kratos just takes the key and leaves him behind. What a true gamer. So we get back to the locked door, but it is too late as the enemies already killed the people who were inside. Those people also reminded Kratos of his past, where he was really angry.
I'm just foreshadowing.
So now Kratos calls Athena, a god that appears to be a goddamn statue.
Oh, how amusing.
So Athena tells Kratos that if he wants the gods to forgive his past, he'll have to go to Athens and kill Ares, the god of war. So Kratos gets into Athens. He finds Oracle that's supposed to tell him how to kill Ares, but she gets taken away. But it's alright because he saves her back after a really dumb puzzle that took me way too long to figure out.
Well, get to that later.
Next, Oracle tries to see what really happened in Kratos' past. Yeah, I guess she hated how the last cutscene ended on a cliffhanger, and I agree, flashbacks are a bitch.
Out of my head!
Apparently Kratos disagrees.
Oh, you definitely don't want to be in that situation.
So it is revealed that Kratos was once a feast, as well as a man. You think you know somebody until you realize he talks like the narrator from God of War.
And when the oracle looked into his soul, she saw a beast as well as a man.
So apparently Kratos was once a pretty good warrior. With his army numbered in thousands of soldiers, he had really good tactics, and even though they showed a lot of this color, they were effective. And while the only thing that was really stopping him was his relationship problem with his wife, he was doing alright anyways, so brutal style it is, I guess. But that's the thing, one day... Stop! The flames on screen were reaching the budget limit on the CGI, so Oracle decides that enough is enough and stop touching Kratos' head.
Aw man, he was just getting to the good part.
Oracle tells Kratos that to kill Ares he must find Pandora's box, a magical weapon that could kill a god, located in the desert, inside of Pandora's temple, which is already on top of a giant gorilla. So for 60% of the game, Kratos searches for Pandora's box. There is barely anything story-wise here, but there is exposition on Kratos' character. So after Kratos got his big-ass army, he decided that it is time to play Dynasty Warriors. The barbarians had an even bigger army than Kratos's. They basically dominated his army, but before Kratos died, he realized that there are actually 9 more games in the series.
Because you can't forget about the mobile game God of War Betrayal.
Kratos calls and make a deal with Ares. He will kill the barbarians and Kratos will become his servant. Then we get a montage of the barbarians killing themselves. Gotta say, pretty beautiful in my opinion. So Ares gave Kratos the Blades of Chaos. They do give you shit ton of power, but they also make you the ability to rampage. Kratos and his army began on the mission to genocide. They killed everybody, no one was safe. Definitely a lot of blood was spilling out of people. They were even burning down villages for God's sake. Kratos was basically invincible at this point, but it was this exact temple that made him turn away. And when he burst out the door, he killed everybody as usual, but his last two victims were actually his family. Before he walks away from the temple, Ares asks him to burn down both his wife and his child.
That's fucked up.
Kratos swears revenge at Ares, but after he exits the temple, he gets cast a terrible curse. His family's ashes actually turned him white.
That's interesting.
So Kratos finds Pandora's box. The dumbass narrator tells Ares that Kratos succeeded, so what does Ares do? Well, he takes a big ass pillar and throws it so fucking hard that...
Huh.
Well, now Kratos is in the underworld. After desperately trying to get out, Kratos finally escapes and returns to Athens. It's finally time to face the man itself. Kratos uses Pandora's box, which reveals to be a super mushroom. The battle begins after Kratos goes 100 times bigger. At the end, he manages to kill Ares and save the city, but not himself apparently. The gods did forgive Kratos on what he did, but they didn't really delete his memories of, you know, the fact that he killed so many people, including his family. And because of that, Kratos tries to kill himself.
What a happy ending.
But before he actually died, he realized that the series had to continue because of how successful it was. So Athena rewinds Kratos for him to come back and he becomes the new god of war. And after sitting on the throne, Kratos finally realized that yes, life is indeed fucked up. So that was God of War's story. What a goddamn ride this was. On paper, I don't really think the story can work that much, and it shows. The story feels silly. I couldn't take it that seriously. One reason is the voice acting. I don't think it's bad, but it's definitely not good either. The performances are not super realistic, in fact I barely even believed in these characters, but it's also not boring, which is a big achievement, especially in a time where a lot of the voice acting sounded like... Most of the characters talk in this super high language, trying to give you the sense of weightness and great meaning in what they are saying, but in reality they barely say anything. They go on and on, but most of the dialogue can be shortened to 3 sentences.
I always liked feeling immersed by serving myself the glorious berry that is a malice. Which is like an apple, but if you eat it with a fork.
And don't even get me started on the narrator. What were they thinking? I already couldn't take the story seriously, but now I can't even see the characters talking or doing anything without hearing something in the likes of... And now he raised his hand, looking at all of the broken GameCube controllers. The shithead who could never beat Ocarina of Time without any cheat code said...
Wait, what?
I get that they were going for this darker, more mysterious tone, but I can't really say I felt too much of that during the story. But the thing that angered me the most in the story is definitely Kratos himself. To be honest, his character feels bland and kind of one-sided. Kratos' character traits are, he's mad, and that's basically it. He has respect for barely any shit. His character barely changes in the actual game, and there is close to no character development. I get that they were trying to sell you the fact that Kratos is a guy of pain and he killed a bunch of people, even his goddamn family, and he's trying now to get his revenge on Ares, because we all know that killing people is wrong and we should stop doing that maybe. Fucking talk it out. Have a nice conversation. It'll calm you down or something. Then why the hell does he still keep on killing people?
Because he's right.
Even after being betrayed by Ares, Kratos still kills everybody like he doesn't care. He still does whatever he wants. He still harms people if he feels like it. But the worst part about him, he also shows sympathy when he sees dead soldiers. Like, come on, just choose a side.
By the gods, what have I become?
Seriously?
Kratos in this game is one hell of a character. I can't really seem to understand him. His character arc starts as if he is a drunken loser. He only cares about pride and being the greatest warrior. But then, after seeking a deal with Ares and getting betrayed by him, he understands that there are other important things besides blood, like family, except that you don't have that because you killed them 2 seconds ago, you sick bastards. Kratos then tries to make up for that by destroying Ares and saving Athens, but even then he still kills their people. It's like he learned absolutely nothing. But then again, showing his sympathy to some dead soldiers, buddy, you killed millions, you really can't expect me to believe this. You know what, if we're already talking about dead people, why are there so many dead people in this game? Seriously, the times you see people die here are the same times I died in Bloodborne. The number is pretty fucking high. It's like we didn't only make the game ridiculous, we also made it funny. Overall, this is not a story I would consider good per se. It's stupid, like what the hell did you do here, stupid? I didn't really get immersed in it, it was more of an in and out situation where I didn't really get all emotional with it like other people did. But then, why is the story so fun?
I should really stop doing that.
God of War story isn't the craziest thing you'll ever see, that we all know, but it is still interesting. Yeah, I bet you never heard that word, huh? The story is dumb, sure, but it's still entertaining. It keeps your eyes glued to the screen, and while it's not that I was super invested, I just wanted to know what will happen next, and you know what? The game didn't bore me at all. Lots of new games fail in that department. They have constant downtime and filler. Even a lot of my favorite games have this. Take for example, God of War.
Really? We're doing this again?
The new God of War games are known for their amazing storytelling. By that I mean holding up. This game has so many times when you're just holding up and do nothing but listening to the characters who won't shut the fuck up. And while I don't think this kind of storytelling is bad, it's just that the original God of War didn't have this constant downtime. And yes, I did say that the characters here have this really high-ass language, but that's also what makes them special and really funny.
I was trying to make you a great warrior. You succeeded.
Hilarious.
In conclusion, God of War's story isn't the greatest thing ever made. It's dumb, ridiculous, does not make any sense, and made me lose all seriousness I had to the game. With that said though, it doesn't mean I didn't like it. It captured my interest in a way that while I didn't get invested too much, I was still entertained. It has barely any downtime, and it is incredibly, and I mean incredibly silly.
Well, that was pretty cool. Nobody cares about the story for video games anyway. We all know that they suck, so let's just get into the part we actually care about. The killing.
The gameplay of God of War mostly consisted of combat and puzzles. This is a hack and slash, so combat takes the main focus. I think the combat in this game is alright, the controls feels pretty solid, at least for the time. I didn't need to fight with them too much, and the game is designed around them. Like a lot of other hack and slashes, you have a light and heavy attack and you create different combos by executing different combinations. God of War is a basic action game in my opinion. If you've ever played any one of these games, you'll feel right at home. You also get a grab, it kills weak enemies instantly, but you do have to do some damage to the tankier enemies before you actually finish them. I really like how it works, it's really cinematic, especially for boss fights. For most of the enemies though, you don't just use the grab, you also need to do a little QTE. Yes, this is the first game that invented QuickTime events. This, Resident Evil 4, Sonic Unleashed, and this little game called Super Mario Bros. The QTEs in this game are great. They definitely add a lot of the cinematic action Kratos does when he performs the takedown. You really need to mash in some of them, like seriously, I needed to earthquake on the controller to get some of those, but overall I really like them. Kratos can also use 4 different magic attacks: Poseidon's Rage, Medusa's Gauge, Zeus's Fury, and Army of Hades. Poseidon's Rage is a big ass circle.
Wait, but I thought we already talked about those before.
It's super useful when there are a lot of enemies around you and you get caught in these tricky situations. Medusa's Gauge freezes enemies and turns them into stone. Definitely better to use on the larger enemies, but it really isn't useful when you can just fight the enemies on your own. Zeus's Fury gives a burst of lightning to throw at enemies. It's useful for when you can't reach enemies because Kratos doesn't really have other methods of getting enemies on the range.
What a fucking dumbass.
Lastly, you get the Army of Hades, letting you summon the very souls of the underworld. These are snakes. I mostly used Poseidon's Rage. Having a big ass attack came out really handy. I mostly ignored all of the other magic attacks outside of sometimes Zeus's Fury, but outside of that, I didn't really find use in the other ones. Magic attacks use the magic meter. To feel the meter, you need to find blue orbs. You can mostly find them from chests, but some enemies also drop them. Lastly, Kratos also gets the Rage of the Gods, an ability that makes you way stronger, basically invincible, and in other words, it's just a devil trigger. But this one is much shorter, making it a get out of jail card more than anything. So we talked about how to attack enemies, but what are we supposed to do when enemies attack us?
Die!
Well, you have a few options. First is a roll, allowing you to dodge incoming attacks. Problem is, the roll has a lot of cooldown before you can do anything else, making it really stiff to use. Now, you could cancel the cooldown, however, I didn't really know how to do that, so the dodge roll always felt clunky to me. The other option of defending yourself is guarding. It blocks any incoming attack. Well, not any attack. Some attacks from enemies will break your guard, so the only way to avoid them is to dodge roll. If you guard right as the attack hits you, you'll perform a parry, which gives you an opening to strike back. It's not the hardest thing to parry enemies, the time window is still pretty generous, but it's still satisfying to do. Halfway through the game you also get the Blade of Artemis. It's mostly a weapon for tankier enemies as it does way more damage, although it is much slower. All of your weapons and abilities can be upgraded with the red orbs. You find that from killing enemies and opening treasure chests. Upgrading things is essential. It gives you new moves and greater damage. The problem here is the process itself. To upgrade your weapons and abilities, you simply need to go over the upgrades menu, select the thing you want to upgrade and upgrade it. What's the problem?
Brain rot.
How did you manage to fuck up an upgrade system? Like, seriously, how? What are you, Sonic Frontiers? I mean, they fixed that in an update, but still. Upgrading anything that takes a high amount of red orbs can approximately take about lots of time. Why couldn't it be that it would just take one press of a button to upgrade things instead of holding it down and waiting for eternity? The problem really comes when you die and you have to upgrade everything again. I mean, just look at this. Are you still in here?
Cause I'm watching YouTube shorts right now.
And while it may seem as just a nitpick, and it is, it was dumb enough for me to mention it. In the end though, God of War's combat is good. It wasn't too much to write home about, but I had fun with it. God of War isn't a game that lets you express yourself in many different ways and toy with the enemy like Devil May Cry 5, nor was it a constant button masher. There was a balance between luring new players in, but also getting people who actually knew what this is. It doesn't really have a high skill ceiling and it is pretty easy to master, and I don't mean doing speedrunning stuff, rather just understanding the game to an extent. It's solid, pretty good even. It didn't knock my socks off, but pretty fun overall. The game looks alright, textures and models looks like they were stripped right from this era.
Boring!
Yeah, there is nothing crazy to talk about when it comes to the looks of this game. It looks fine, but like, that's everything there is to say. The art style is nice, very faithful to fucking gods, I guess. Same goes with the music. None of the tracks were really memorable to me outside of the main theme, but even then, it doesn't go that far. The level design in this game is an interesting topic. I like to divide the game into 4 main levels, even though they don't take the same amount of time. So what are you doing outside of combat? Well, you run around, you move some rocks, solve puzzles, which most of the time also consist of moving rocks, and do some minor platforming. Yeah, I don't really like the level design in this game. Moving rocks is like the worst mechanic in every video game. There is nothing worse than limiting your moveset or making everything slower just because I need to grab something. Even in good games, padding out the gameplay is never fun. It just makes me want to rip my hair off. Now combine this with puzzles that barely make any sense, and guess what? You got yourself an even worse combination. The puzzles in this game are not fun, like at all. There was no puzzle I had fun solving, and most of the one that I even remember are the one that I got stuck on the most. The platforming kinda sucks. There is barely any of it in the game outside of the last level, and even then it's not good. The platforming feels like it was something that made up in the last second. Jumping does not feel good. It's sluggish, clunky, and most of the time you can't even know where you're landing. Jumping in combat feels just like the rest of it. It's good for combos, but for platforming, yeah, you're definitely not getting any Mario level experience. It just doesn't feel right. It feels like the developers really needed another way to spice up the gameplay, which is fine, but this was just not the right answer. The game is linear, but I do like how it encourages at least a little bit of searching around for treasures. Around the levels are Gorgon Eyes and Phoenix Feathers, both used to extend your life and magic meters. You need 5 of each to get one extension, so you definitely want to keep looking for those when playing the game. We'll go through all of the stages in the game to show why the level design isn't that great. The game starts in the Aegean Sea, where Kratos is really infuriated. The shortest of all levels, the Aegean Sea is your usual tutorial, showing the mechanics of the game and what to really expect for the rest of it. This area is most notable from the fight with Hydra. I love how you encounter him in the first 5 minutes of the game and where you are the least ready for him. Like, he just pop in and says, "Hey, do you also own 3 copies of Donkey Kong Jungle Beat?"
Damn it!
The second level in the game is Athens. It starts out when you go out of the ship and continue to the city. A lot of the puzzles here are alright, they aren't that annoying, but we'll get to that later. After you find Oracle though, you get through the sewers. There isn't too much here outside of combat and it is pretty short, but I at least like the variety. When you get off the sewers, you see Ares fighting. He doesn't really do too much, you just see him and he's definitely there. Then there is Pandora's Temple, and I don't really like this one. The longest level in the game is definitely my most hated. You get to the desert and you need to find 3 sirens before you get to the entrance of the temple. The desert is one big area where you can barely see anything. While you do have an audio cue, you are walking around here while barely doing anything. Not the best introduction ever. But Kratos got us covered because apparently he climbed a big ass gorilla for 3 days. Pandora's Temple has 3 parts that represent a challenge from the gods. You actually get to sacrifice a soldier in this area. Apparently this part got a lot of controversy. All you do is push one of the soldiers to the fire and see him burn to death. See, I would understand why people would gush about something like this, but not in God of War. As I already said, Kratos kills a lot of people, that's his thing. I mean, the game literally rewards you for this in the early levels by giving you HP if you kill the innocent people, so the developers were clearly aware that something like this would happen. I just don't understand why this specific part is the one that everybody talk about, but in the end, they changed the soldier to a monster in the European release. Okay. The challenge of Poseidon is your usual PS2 water level. I mean, do I really need to say more?
Wait, what the fuck is a water?
The controls in the water are fine. The problem here comes from the level design, more specifically these horrendous sections where you have to maneuver perfectly in the water, or if not, you'll just die from the obstacles. The challenge of Hades was alright, the platforming wasn't horrible, and that maze where you needed to kill every enemy in the place could kiss my ass, but it has this thing, which was pretty awesome. The Armored Gorilla, wow, there are a lot of gorillas in this game, is the second major boss in the game, and my third favorite, considering the game only has 3 bosses.
Well, it's not much of a tier list.
You need to break his armor first by pulling logs at him after he gets stunned. Then you get to really fight him, and after some more quick time events you get another great vitality. So now that you completed all of the challenges, it's time to go to the Cliffs of Madness. I don't like this place. The place is so confusing, especially with its weird structure. The worst part is definitely the puzzles, with the worst of them being none other than Tetris.
I trusted you!
In one of the sections you need to find 2 colored necklaces. To find the green one you need to play Tetris. I already talked about why pushing rocks is so stupid, but then making me push multiple of them and then also having me rotate them in the most awkward way possible, yeah, no thank you. Finally you reach Pandora's box. With some pain and a lot of motivation, you push through, but unfortunately Ares throws a big ass pillar into Kratos' belly, making you think, hey, why didn't you do anything when I was back in Athens?
He was too busy doing his idol animation.
So Kratos is sent into the underworld in the final level of the game, the Path of Hades. People hate this place. The final level takes place in the underworld where everyone is falling. Visually, this is definitely the most interesting place in the game. I love how it is all bloody with random people just screaming their life as they fall apart. It's pretty funny looking. The reason people despise this level is the platforming. In most of this level you are on these rotating pillars that have a lot of blades on them. These are not that annoying, I actually found them quite easy, with the real challenge coming a little later. This is what I call the elevator of hell, and it does not function in the slightest. You're supposed to climb these things upwards, however with the amount of blades it has, it's barely possible. The worst part here is that if you get hit once, you're sent back right to the start, or you just clip out of bounds and instantly die because you know what, just make the whole game broken, damn it. But at the end, you get out of hell back to Athens and have to fight Ares himself. The final boss of the game, a great conclusion to this whole journey. Ares technically have 3 phases. You try to beat him on his first phase, something that doesn't go very well after he sucks up Kratos to somewhere where he finds his family being attacked by himself.
Kratos, please stop being drunk.
He tries saving his family and apparently succeeded, it's just that they get killed 3 seconds later. But before accepting defeat, Kratos finds out he could actually use a big ass sword. I actually thought these things were banned from the game. After the last phase and after beating him up, Kratos tries to kill himself, fails miserably and sits on the throne. The game finally ends. God of War's level design is definitely not great, but does it really make the game bad? No. God of War gets a 7.5 out of 10. It has a fine story with decent combat and a mediocre level design. At the end of the day, I liked it, and I do recommend this game for fans of the hack and slash genre. However, it definitely wasn't perfect for me. I didn't feel a 10 out of 10 masterpiece like everybody says it is. Don't get me wrong, God of War is a quality game, but calling it a masterpiece is kind of pushing it.
Well, while God of War was pretty good, I think I got something far better from it. See, all day I tried to keep my anger with me, but right now I understand that wasn't the right thing to do. We need to express our emotions on things. We can't just stay cold with nothing inside us. We need to show that we have emotion because that's what makes us humans. I just don't think that genocide was the right option.